Stewart HAAS Racing has just confirmed that they will be leaving after the 2024 season. Let's go into detail about what this means for next season and what will probably happen to the drivers, and could there be some huge surprises in store. Welcome to Track Talk. Hello everybody and welcome to Track Talk, the show that talks about all things racing. Sorry for the lack of uploads recently. My computer decided to implode on itself and I wasn't able to make videos for the past 3 days. So if you keep up with NASCAR news daily, it was revealed yesterday a big bombshell drop that Stewart HAAS Racing was to cease operations after the 2024 season. Now this is a huge deal for multiple reasons, but I want to start talking about the charters, which are one of the main things to talk about along with their drivers, as those charters are worth tens of millions of dollars per. The last recorded charter that was sold was with BJ McLeod and Matt Tiff's Live Fast Motorsports, which that charter alone would sell for $40 million to Spire Motorsports. It's being said that Stewart HAAS Racing will not be getting $40 million for each of their charters, as they are bulk selling all four, which means they're going to most likely cut the price of charters in half, down to $20 million. If they sold one last season, they could have gotten $40 million. Now they're only going to be getting $80 million for four, when they could have, if they waited, maybe they could have gone $160 million, but they do not have as much sponsorship as they did last season, as Anheuser-Busch, Smithfield, Gear Wrench, Go Bowling, they've all left the team. So this was kind of a writing on the wall situation for this team, as they did not have really any funding except like Overstock, which has been sponsoring them a ton recently, but it would have not sustained the team for the foreseen future, at least. So with the sale of these charters, now the question is, who are going to buy these charters? And so far, Bob Pockris has reported. If you don't know, Bob Pockris is a very well-respected reporter inside the NASCAR community. He has reported that the three favorites so far to buy these charters are 23XI, Front Row Motorsports, and Trackhouse Racing. Those are the three main teams to end up expanding next season. And let's talk about them for a little bit. Starting off with 23XI, this is one of the big ones here, is that this team has been talking about expanding to a third car for the longest time. They currently have Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick, both of which are great drivers for their team. And they are up there consistently as one of the top Toyota teams. Reddick finished 4th in the Coca-Cola 600 after having to start last, which was quite an accomplishment. He had to start in the rear, and he drove all the way up to 4th before the eventual rain delay, which still don't understand why they did that. 23XI, I think the logical belief between the community is that they are going to have the number 67 as their next car, driven by the rookie Corey Heim. Heim has been incredibly impressive this season, with already 3 wins, and the regular point season lead is in a constant battle with him and Christian Eckes, which I would say he's probably going to end up coming on top because he has been consistent this year. I would call him Mr. Consistent because that's how good he is. Now, he has already ran 2 races this year in the Cup Series, subbing for Eric Jones when he hurt his back at Talladega during that crash with the Toyotas. He ran inside the top 15 at Kansas. Dover was his first start. We could kind of excuse him for that, but he was in the top 25, and at Kansas, he was running better than he was at Dover, and he ended up getting turned on the last lap and got sent through the grass. But the real reason why he is the favorite is because he is running the third 23XI car at Nashville Super Speedway, which this car has not been seen since earlier this year at the Circuit of the Americas where Kobayashi drove it. This shows that the future that they see in Heim, that he can be one of the top Cup prospects, a future Cup champion. I think he will be a Cup champion, but there's also a giant risk with doing this, as we've seen before that rushing a driver up to the Cup Series immediately isn't always a good thing. You can take a look at this season even. Zane Smith has been promoted from the Truck Series. He was a championship contender for both 2022 and 2023, and he also made it in 2021. I just remembered that, but he was promoted to the number 71, the third charter that was bought by Spire, and he has been running awfully this year. Awful. Complete garbage, basically. Has been completely irrelevant and has been outshined by the other rookie at the team, Carson Hocevar, who has also been promoted this year to the Cup Series. He did run some races last year. He did run actually a lot of races, and he performed incredibly well. You can look at his first start at Gateway when he was subbing for Corey LaJoie, who went to go drive for Chase Elliott because Chase Elliott had injured himself skiing or snowboarding, whatever it was. But he was running better than LaJoie was in that Hendrick car. He was inside the top 15 or outside the top 15 for a majority of that race, and that was his first ever race. It was incredible to watch, and then his brake rotor exploded going into turn 1, and it was over already. But then he got the call to sub in for number 42 when the Noah Gragson incident was happening, and he also did incredibly well. He ran inside the top 10 at Bristol, which was insane to watch as well. He was doing incredible, and he was doing incredible this year as well. He's been one of the most underrated drivers of the Cup Series season, and I think this guy has a future. If they can get him into a top ride, he could actually be a legitimate contender. But back to Zane Smith, he's been the complete opposite of Carson Hocevar. We were all expecting like big things of Zane Smith, as we've seen before, but we just haven't seen it from him. It's the strangest thing. Now, relating this back to Corey Heim, this dude has potential. We all know he has potential. But the question is it too early to move him up? He's been in the Truck Series for about 3 years now. He started as a rookie back in 2022 driving for Kyle Busch. Then he got the call to go to Tricon, and he's been there for the past 2 seasons. However, is he ready is the question. Can he perform at the same level that Carson Hocevar has been performing? And I get the rookie season is always the most difficult for a driver. And then you probably will have a sophomore slump. It always happens, except for Ty Gibbs, who's undoubtedly performed better, I think, this year than he was at this point last year. So you have a risk and a reward situation. You could start him now, and you could face horrible, horrible first seasons, and then he might get better as the seasons go on, or he might end up like a Harrison Burton, who just doesn't improve at all, or he might end up like Zane Smith, who has been struggling so bad that you don't see why would you ever promote this guy without more time in the car. And that actually brings us to the next team that we have to talk about, which is Trackhouse Racing. We'll say Front Row for next, but Trackhouse Racing, this is not really even a speculation at this point, as Spire, which is the affiliate team of Trackhouse, they just signed Michael McDowell to a multi-year deal to drive the number 71, which is Zane Smith's car. Trackhouse Racing signed Zane Smith to a development deal, and Zane is currently in that number 71 car. If they're shopping for a charter, you probably should guess, and this is a general consensus as well, that Zane Smith is getting a promotion to Trackhouse Racing. If he wasn't signed to that development deal, I don't think Trackhouse would pick him in this scenario. If I was Trackhouse and I had a free opening, I wouldn't pick Zane. I probably wouldn't pick SVG yet. I wouldn't pick Connor Zilisch. I would actually go with Carson Hocevar, because Hocevar is proven, he's proven that he can actually drive in Spire equipment. He can do really well. We've seen the promise that he had. I haven't seen any promise out of Zane Smith this entire season. And it might be because he's in the third car, and that third car might not be getting as much attention, but I just don't get it. I don't get why. If they were to spend $40 million, why would you put that third car as like a development car instead of actually making it competitive like the rest? Anyways, enough talk about Trackhouse, Inspire, Zane Smith, Carson Hocevar. Let's go to the other team that's in this market as well, which is Front Row Motorsports. Now, Front Row has been on the rise for a couple years now. They have been getting better and better, but right now they are currently sitting 22nd and 23rd inside the Cup Series standings, with Gilliland about 3 points ahead of McDowell. Now, the question I have is, does this really justify a third car? Front Row already lost, I think, their best driver, which was Michael McDowell, who built this team up. He was there since 2021. That team's been really improving with him as their main driver. Now that he's going, they have to replace now one car with another driver, and now they want to add a second car, so they have to add 2 drivers now. So if we're just going to say, sure, they are going to expand and they're going to fill both seats, who are going to get those seats? Well, this is the one that is really uncertain within the NASCAR community, as some believe that the number 34 car could be filled by one of the Stewart HAAS drivers. That driver that I think I've seen that be most rumored around, or the favorite for this ride, is the 2023 Xfinity Series champion, Cole Custer. Custer has been having a good season so far in Xfinity. Not a win yet, but he has been consistently inside the top 5, top 10. And as we head back to Portland, which was the place of his first win, maybe he can get that first win. But now with the Stewart HAAS problem, is that performance going to go down at that team? And it might hinder his ability to get that 34 ride. But the question I have is that if he is to get the promotion, does he run as well as he did when he came into the Cup Series back in 2020? Because he did get demoted after the 2022 season for Ryan Preece, who hasn't really done as much as Custer did in that car. Custer, I think, would be a really good pick, but the question I have is, does he bring any sponsorship with him? Because when he was at Stewart HAAS in the Cup Series, and still now, his main sponsorship has been Haas, which is Gene Haas's company. So, does he bring any sponsorship to that 34? I'm guessing yes, because Love's Travel Stop is still with that team, and they've been super loyal, so I won't see why they wouldn't stick with Custer, but I don't think Custer would perform at the same level that McDowell would. And it's going to really show that who is going to be the top person at that team. Is it going to be Gilliland? Is Gilliland going to have to step up and become the top teammate, or is it going to be Custer? I don't know if Custer can perform at the Cup Series level yet compared to where he has been in Xfinity. I feel like to justify a run into Cup, you have to have at least won a few races already this season. Like Chandler Smith has won 2 races this season already, but now he's kind of gone downhill. But Custer has been running consistent, but is it really justifying a Cup Series run again when we've already seen what happened the last time he did this? Alright, so we talked about Custer. Now we have to find out what that third car is going to be. And this one is the interesting one, because it could either, I think, go to 2 drivers here. It could either go to Josh Berry, who is a more experienced driver who would undoubtedly do better on the short tracks, or you can go with a younger driver in Noah Gragson. Both of these drivers are currently driving for Stewart HAAS and need a ride after this season, and I think Barry will end up getting this ride because Gragson already has another ride lined up, which could actually be a better car than this third front row car. And we'll talk about it in a second, but Josh Berry should probably get that third front row motorsports car, and he will most likely do the best that he can in that car. Berry has gotten really good as of recent. He finished 3rd at Darlington. He ran up in the top 5 at Charlotte. He's been doing really well as of recent. And I think that if this continues on, maybe he has a shot at making the playoffs, as he's currently 19th in points. His teammate Chase Briscoe is currently 16th he's 17th, because Daniel Suarez is already won a race this season. So Briscoe is 17th in points. Berry is 19th in points. I wouldn't be surprised if Berry, if this keeps up, he's going to overtake Briscoe and maybe make a run at that final playoff spot. Or he might get lucky later in the season and win a race to get in the playoffs. It could very well happen at that rate he's going right now, because that car has been really good and easily, I would say, the best Stewart HAAS car on the track. Another driver that actually could get that front row car is Riley Herbst, as he's been running with that team recently. He ran with them last season and actually performed really well at the plate tracks that he ran. And he does bring Monster Energy with him, which is a huge sponsorship that the team could actually use. So that's just another thing to actually put into the mind here, is that there's really a 3-driver race for 2 cars, but I don't think Gragson is going to end up at front row because he's heading to a different team, and that team is a Chevy team. That Chevy team is Richard Childress Racing, where it has been reported that Noah Gragson might end up in a 3rd Cup Series ride, or he might just replace one of the 2 drivers at Richard Childress right now. And this opens up a multitude of pathways on where this can go. We can either have Noah Gragson replacing Austin Dillon. There is no doubt that Austin Dillon has been performing way worse this season than ever before. He has been horrible as of recent, and last season he was horrible. It could be time for Austin Dillon to give up the helmet and to turn it into a business suit and take over a management role at the team. If so, then that opens up the door for Noah Gragson to come in and be the younger driver under the leadership once again of Kyle Busch. That would put them as a dominant duo, I think. That's a great duo to have at Richard Childress Racing for a while. Kyle Busch could guide Noah Gragson, who has been proven to have a lot of talent. Or we could just see the opposite of that happening, which is Kyle Busch leaves Richard Childress Racing and he heads somewhere else, and Noah Gragson takes over the number 8 car. The number 8 team has seen a drastic decline in performance compared to last season. They've been struggling as of recently with trying to get up there towards the front. He finished 15th this past weekend at Charlotte, which after being in the lap down in the bottom 30s, it was an improvement, but this car last year at the Coke 600 was running inside the top 5 for the majority of the race. Pretty sure he finished inside the top 10. This car was way better at this point last year than it was this year. So Kyle Busch is probably not happy with that performance, and this opens up a wormhole if Noah Gragson is going to RCR. Could he replace Kyle Busch? And Kyle Busch could very well head back to Toyota, and that could also mean that Corey Heim isn't getting the 2311 ride. Kyle Busch could head to 2311 next year, and he could actually head to Joe Gibbs Racing possibly. The rumors of Martin Truex Jr. retiring has always been there, and he hasn't confirmed that he's going to be back next year. So there's a good chance that Kyle Busch could head back to Joe Gibbs Racing with some form of sponsorship, possibly from Kroger, which has been interested in moving to Joe Gibbs Racing next year. We could have Kyle Busch and the 18 with Kroger as sponsorship next year, which I would be so for, because RCR has not been as competitive as they should be, and that is something that I know Kyle Busch cannot be happy about. Okay, just as I was recording this, breaking news from NASCAR themselves that have just confirmed that Front Row Motorsports is going to field 3 full-time NASCAR Cup Series entries starting in 2025. So that does confirm that rumor that they will get 3 cars next year. Who's going to fill the 34? Probably Cole Custer. That 36 or 35, whatever number it's going to be, that is up in the air of who's going to get that car. But that is just breaking news right now as I'm recording this video. It is insane that they are going to be upscaling to another car. I hope that the performance is going to justify that, honestly. One last driver to mention here is Chase Briscoe, who is being rumored at this moment to go to the iconic team and the iconic number 21 for Wood Brothers Racing, which this is a great move, honestly. Chase Briscoe is one of the more underrated drivers of the Cup Series. I think give him great equipment, good enough equipment, he will go and perform it to the best of his ability. Stewart HAAS Racing has undoubtedly been on the decline ever since he moved there in 2021. I think he will actually have a good chance at being a playoff contender in that number 21 car compared to where he is in the 14 right now. As that number 21, I think, has untapped potential. Harrison Burton has not been as good as that 21 car is. Harrison Burton has been getting worse somehow since his rookie season. And putting Chase Briscoe in that car can easily put it back to being a playoff contender like it was with Matt DiBenedetto. And he has a sponsoring, I think, from Mahindra, possibly. High Point, I think, will follow him. It's going to be a good move that this driver will make. And I think it's in the best interest for the Wood Brothers to end up signing Briscoe. Maybe it's already a done deal and it's just waiting for an announcement, but he's really the last driver here to talk about, as Ryan Preece doesn't have a ride next year. People believe he's going to go to either trucks or back to modifieds, but we'll have to wait and see on that. There's only one missing piece of the puzzle here. We've covered all the drivers. We've covered all the teams that are speculated to get those charters, except there's only one charter left here. And that is the real question mark here, is who gets that? Because it's not going to be RFK like people have been speculating, as Brad Keselowski has already indicated that they are short like $30 million to buy another one. I don't think they're interested in getting a third charter, which would probably be for Justin Haley. But I think Brad is going to drive that car till his retirement, and then Haley's going to jump in and take over the number 6. But who gets that car is the question, because it's not going to be 2311. Denny Hamlin has said that he wants a 3-car team, and that's it. He doesn't express interest in going to 4. It can't be Junior Motorsports because Dale Jr. has previously said that he does not want to pay that much money for that charter, as it doesn't make business sense unless he gets help from a sponsor outside, which could very well be Amazon. It could be an Amazon sponsorship for that number 8 car if that's included in his deal. Imagine that if Dale Jr. got help from Amazon themselves to start a racing team. The number 8 Amazon Prime car would be absolutely insane, honestly. In all honesty, I think that 4th charter most likely goes to the Trackhouse team, as they were probably going to need a 4th charter anyways for Shane Van Gisbergen, who wants to go Cup Series racing. That's the reason he came over to the States to run NASCAR. It wasn't to run Xfinity. He is under, I think, contract with the Trackhouse team to go run for them eventually. That is the plan. It has to be the plan. So getting the 4th charter now would make a lot of sense instead of waiting for later. So it's probably going to be 2 for Trackhouse, 1 for Front Row, 1 for 2311. The drivers will situate themselves out at Richard Childress, Front Row, Wood Brothers, and we also have more that could end up happening. Kyle Busch could move teams, and there's just a lot that could happen over these few months until the offseason. So I want to thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Track Talk. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when more of these episodes come out. So tune in next time, as we will probably cover this upcoming weekend's race at the Gateway Track or Worldwide Technology Raceway, whichever one you want to call it. We'll try and pick who ends up winning the Cup Series and all the other series that are running there. So take care, and I'll see you in the next one.